In this video from last week, focusing on the new baby part of the Pretty Pink Posh May release, I did mention that there's a whole other section of the release that focuses on other celebratory themes, and that I wanted to cover those in its own video. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and that is today's video. I'm going to share the rest of the Pretty Pink Posh release, and it focuses on all types of celebratory days like weddings, anniversaries, 4th of July, so perfect items for summer celebrations. I'm actually going to start this card with a previously released stencil set, which was called the Streamers Stencils. It is still available. It's a great set to have for a variety of different occasions. It would be great for birthdays and lots of other celebrations, New Year's even. But for this one, I'm making a wedding card. So I want to keep the background pretty subtle. And that's why I'm using sponge sugar as my first ink and a very light hand. I have the cardstock stuck on my waffle flower grip mat. It's the 8.5 by 8.5 size. And then I have the 6x6 stencil on top of the cardstock. So it's also stuck to the grip mat, which you can see when I try to peel that up. It does take a little bit of work there. For the second stencil, you just line it up, and the two stencils together create the look of those crepe paper streamers. So for the second color, I have Catherine Pooler ink Cotton Candy. It's also a light pink, but it's a little bit different than the sponge sugar. So I thought it would give the effect of those rolled crepe paper streamers. Finishing up with that, again, very light touch of that ink. Don't want it to be too dark in the background. Next, I'm using the brand new Champagne Flute shaker dies from Pretty Pink Posh. And I've cut out two of everything so that I can have two glasses together. And I have white fun foam, I have acetate, and I have the frame. The way you create the frame is cut out the flute and then use that die to cut out the interior. Now, for the fun foam, I am placing it down onto the cardstock, and I want to make sure that my liquid adhesive goes all the way around the fun foam. I was starting by doing dots, and then I remembered what I was doing, which was creating a shaker, and I don't want those little beads going everywhere, because if they get out, they really will roll everywhere. So I want to make sure that the entire foam is adhered down to the card base. And then I'm using some gold glitter cardstock from Spellbinders to insert into the center of that fun foam of the glass so that I can create a sparkly image to that glass as well. So I've glued down both pieces of fun foam and I have them angled towards each other like they are having a cheers moment there. So next I'll take the frame that I cut out of the gold glitter cardstock and adhere it down to the acetate. The acetate does not have the interior piece cut out because that's going to create my window. The frame is going to cover up that white fun foam so that the entire glass looks like it's made of gold glitter. I decided I wanted a second layer of fun foam because I really wanted these little shaker beads to be flying around inside the glass so it looks like they are champagne bubbles. So next I'll take the back of that acetate window with the frame on it and put liquid adhesive all around it, especially around the top of the glass, because again, I want to trap those shaker beads inside and I don't want any escapees at all. So I'll adhere both of them down and then I'll place an acrylic block on it to really make sure it gets stuck down. The Congrats to the Newlyweds is part of the Sentiment Strips Occasions stamp set, and I've cut it out with one of the Sentiment Strips dies. I love those Sentiment Strips dies because they cut out all of the Sentiment Strips stamp sets, and Pretty Pink Posh has a bunch of them for different occasions. Next, there was a little die that cut out 3 different bubbles, so I cut them out and adhered them to the top of the card over the glasses. I also grabbed the beautiful bows dies. This is a great set that has a bunch of different kinds of bows and adhered a silver glitter bow to each glass. I love how they shake around. Those shaker beads are amazing. For the next card, I'm using the Big Celebration Cupcake dies. look at all the goodies that come in this die set. It is absolutely amazing. So I'm creating a 4th of July card. You could use this for birthdays, for summer picnics, whatever you want. But for the 4th of July, I have the little USA banner that I've cut out and layered on top of each other. And then it's got the little cupcake pick that you can create. I have a strawberry that's layered with the little leaves. I have sunglasses. I've cut those out of a black shiny cardstock and then used some silver mirror cardstock for the lenses. I have some blueberries here. I actually cut those out of white cardstock. If you ever feel like you're not finding the color of cardstock that you want, you might have the color of ink that you want. So I just ink blended those. I also cut the frosting for the cupcake out of white cardstock, and I'm adding just a hint of some red Distress Oxide ink in the Lumberjack red. So just to add a little hint of color so it looks like it was almost sprayed on. And for the strawberry, I decided to add some white gel pen detail accents to the seeds. The seeds are already cut into the strawberry, but I wanted to add a little white gel pen to make it stand out. I'm also using some white gel pen on these fireworks. The fireworks come in 3 pieces, the top, the middle, and the bottom, so you can layer them in different colors. This is the Stacked Scallops stencil. It is a layering stencil with 2 stencils, and I've decided to create a red, white, and blue stacked scallop. So I have in my head which one has to be which color. And you can see that I'm holding down the stencil, and that's because the scallops are thick, which makes them look so unique and so cool. But you don't want to get ink underneath the stencil. So in order to hold it in place to make sure it was a crisp line, I just held it with my fingers as I was stenciling. For the cupcake holder or cupcake liner, I've cut that out, I've added some stars to it, and I'll pop it up just at the bottom. I've popped up the frosting as well, the strawberry and the glasses, and now the flag sits right inside the cuts of the frosting, which is great because you can add a bunch of whole different things right slipped inside to that frosting. I have the strawberry on one side, the blueberries on the other, the 2 little ants facing each other, and then there's little stars that you can cut out, and I've cut those as sprinkles. I have the sparklers and the fireworks all together, and it is one big explosion of a card, but I absolutely love it. For this next card, I'm using the Stacked Squares dies, and I have an assortment of colors. Each one has a lighter shade and a darker shade, so I'll cut out one of the scallops in the lighter shade and one of the squares in a darker shade. And then they have a bunch of different accessories that go along with it, like a heart, a star, a flower, a flag, and I've cut those out of the lighter shade as well. Once everything was stacked up, I decided to create a grid on an A2 piece of white cardstock. So I'm just eyeballing this, and I think that's fine. You can pretty much figure out where the top and bottom should go as far as a margin around it, and then just center up that middle squares. So once I have that done, I decided to grab a stamp from the Sentiment Strips stamp set, the Occasion stamp set, and cut it out with the Sentiment Strips dies. And it just says best wishes. This card could really be for anything, any kind of celebration. They also have a little balloon. You could do balloons on all the squares and create a really cute birthday card as well. For this next card, I grabbed the Decorative Hexagons stamp set. I love the decorative sets from Pretty Pink Posh because they include different sizes of whatever the stamp set is geared around. And then they also have solids, outlines, and different patterns. So I'm stamping everything except for the outlines in a rainbow of colors. Now you could absolutely stamp black outlines or even colorful outlines around each of these hexagons. I wanted my look to be very soft, and you'll see when I've die cut them all out how they really do look nice as a subtle background without the outlines. I think the outline would draw too much attention to each of those outlines instead of the pretty colors just being a blended subtle background. I've just kind of smattered them around an A2 piece of white cardstock, and the ones that I have hanging off the side, once they're a little dry, I'll just flip the card over and snip off anything that's hanging off, and that gives me another half or so to work with on other pieces to fill in little spots around the edges. So I didn't do anything like an actual pattern. I just kind of tried to keep the same colors away from each other and the same sizes and patterns not too close to each other as well. I've also cut out the Best Wishes shadow dies out of gold mirror cardstock for the word and then vellum for the shadow, and I'll adhere those together. I love using the My Sweet Petunia precision glue press for fine letters like that. The script is absolutely beautiful. It's very fine, so you need something like a fine tip glue pen to get a thin line of adhesive around those letters. Once that dries, I flip it over and put a little bit more adhesive behind the letters so that you don't see the adhesive through the vellum. And then I'll adhere that down to the background. And I love how this card came out. It was so much fun to create. Did something catch your eye today? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't seen my video focusing on the new baby release part of the Pretty Pink Posh release, check it out here. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. One more time. I feel like I'm not saying it very clearly. I feel like I was like talking a mile a minute and hopefully saying everything that needed to be said.